Your teaching is called Being Yoga. Being Yoga. What's the significance of that name, and what can you tell us about that teaching?
Well, I deliberately emphasize the word being as compared to becoming. And the significance about that particular name and why I chose it is because it clearly is something in the living present, rather than something that one sets up as a goal to achieve or become. And a lot of the literature associated with yoga practice especially, and just connecting back to Jean Klein, Jean Klein did offer a form of yoga practice, but he didn't like the word yoga because at the time that he was presenting it, there was a lot of baggage, which is still around today, associated with the practice of yoga that has all of this becoming process, becoming enlightened, becoming more flexible. There's always something to achieve or accomplish, and there's inherent in that a dissatisfaction with the way that things are presently. So one is always in conflict, where one is presently in a set of circumstances that one is somehow discontent with, and therefore suffering. And there is something through the practice of yoga that you wish to achieve or accomplish. Whereas the premise of being yoga is simply being with things as they are presently. There's nothing to accomplish, just really there is this no separation. One is empty of a separate self, just like the finger being empty of itself allows a functional practicality. This understanding of being empty of oneself is an openness, yet it's not nothing. There is a presence, there is awareness that lets things be seen. And clearly what happens is just that, a clarity. There's that clarity in seeing. And so from the fundamental basis of being, which is already happening, there is nothing to become. Yet there is the unfolding process of life. There is a current that is currently unfolding. And as one is living with an openness, things are seen as they show up and as they arise. And the appropriate action comes through that clarity, which is seeing things as they are.
What does Being Yoga do then for people in a practical sense, in a sense of day-to-day, moment-to-moment living? We have an understanding. You explained how perception is changed, is switched in some way. But how does that affect day-to-day problem of living?
Well, how it affects the day-to-day problem of living is simply in the way that problems are greeted. The fundamental premise is really a shift, a dramatic shift from the idea of things like the idea of a finger, the idea of James Travers being a separate entity, to the truth that there is no entity who is James Travers. There really is no James, other than there is the functional practicality. If you say James, I respond to that name because that's how I'm called. And that's happening in the living present, so I would naturally respond to that. Yet I don't have that baggage of an I entity or an ego-bound entity that's formed through past experience, through knowledge, through memories or experience. And so there's no burden of having anything of that nature to defend. There's just simply an openness. So the practice of being yoga is an integrated way of being. Yoga simply means integration, coupling. And this integration manifests as an ease of being. There is a welcoming, as that spaciousness you have heard me speaking about already, to life, to the whatever shows up. And as that welcoming openness is simply that spaciousness, that's a way of being, which is a presence. And like your finger when you were doing the experiment earlier, it's not that things are not felt. You do feel sensations. You do hear things. You do see things. So all the normal functionings of life do happen. The dramatic difference in this consciousness shift is that it's simply the practice of being aware. And awareness itself has action associated with it. Awareness is the instrument that causes things to change. As a consciousness awareness of anything is elevated, then the behavior associated with that thing is elevated. So the practice of being yoga in daily life is simply being aware. It's not me being aware, it's awareness itself. So it literally is being awareness. And out of that, spontaneous, intelligent action arises naturally because this way of being has a clarity with it in that spaciousness and presence that allows things to be as they are. So the summation of what it does for people is it allows this ease of being. There's no longer a struggle.